A few months back, I was making my rounds in a gun shop that I stop at when I'm passing through that town for work. And they're a kind of an expensive gun shop. Most of their stuff's a little more expensive. Even the stuff that it shouldn't be really expensive is. But every once in a while, I'll see a deal and I'll kick it around if it's a good enough deal or what have you. So this rifle was on their used rack. It didn't have a scope. It did have these ring bases and rings, and it is a old sporterized Mauser. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the origin of the Mauser. From the numbers I looked up, it's possibly German. I would have to look under here, and I couldn't get that off because these bolts are absolutely welded in. They started to bend even with the right size screwdriver, and I decided to leave it. They had some empty holes here. I found the little screws that I needed at the local hardware store, and the gun itself was just such a mess. It's got this sweet, beautiful Mauser action, which I'll talk about in a minute. The Mauser claw is really why I bought the gun for $200, if you can believe that. So really can't get anything for $200 today, let alone a functioning rifle with a classic action. I know that by what they did by cutting this Mauser up, at the time probably seemed like a good idea because these were plentiful and it was very popular back in the mid 20th century to even the later part of the 20th century when these Mausers were everywhere, but they're not anymore. So this is really robust, really cool action. It's my only controlled round feed bolt gun that I have. As far as does the gun shoot and does it cycle, it does shoot. I haven't had any light primer strikes. It's got a really nice trigger. It actually has a Timney trigger in it, an older one. The gun itself, the stock, I believe this is walnut. It's not the prettiest walnut, but I think it's walnut. I think either that or a very hard birch. There's no recoil lug slot in here. It's all open. And when I pulled this gun apart, because you get an old gun, you want to pull it apart and clean it and look at it, right, and inspect it and just see that if it's even safe to shoot to begin with. The barrel on this side was glued to the stock itself with like an epoxy glue, and the recoil leg was just floating around in here. So when I unstuck that and I just screwed it back in, I noticed the action screw was bent because there was movement. Because this stock, it is meant for the Mauser. I just think it was meant to be glass bedded. So, and it wasn't cycling at all because this is a blind action magazine, which I'll talk about in a minute. If you're interested, if you want to stick around and listen to what I have to say about a blind action magazine. But anyway, I ended up bedding this myself. I ordered some new screws for the action. I actually, this had a terrible fit back here on this old butt pad. I kind of filed that down and fixed that a little bit, cleaned the stock up, and messed with the spring, the sleeve spring in here. And I got it to feed pretty good. And if you can get a blind action rifle like this to feed pretty good, that's a pretty good thing because a lot of people think, oh, you got to have that plate on these old, FUD style rifles to be able to safely get those rounds out that you're not going to shoot. But with this particular action, you don't actually have to cycle the rounds through. This is an inert round. It's an inert round. Okay, there's no powder in it at all. So I'm gonna throw this in here. The gun is pointed in a safe direction anyway, also, and we are in a basement. So, but to get the rounds out, right? Okay, the round is in. The round isn't in battery. It's not locked in. But with every round in the magazine, you can simply just pull it back, and the claw has it, and it just rips it right out of there. It's a really cool thing. There's something to be said, I think, for not having that plate. I've had that plate on some old rifles that I have. It gets stuck, like there gets to be a little bit of rust or corrosion. Some people have like set the rifle on a tree when they're hunting, and you can hit the little lever and pop out, and then all your rounds pop out, which is really not an opportune time for that to happen. This keeps everything it keeps it simple. It's that KISS principle, right? Keep it as simple as possible, less parts. As far as clearing the jam, it doesn't matter if you have one of those, you know, the trap door, you're not going to clear a jam any better, or you know, you're going to get a jam out, but not faster necessarily, right? Not it's not going to the time difference isn't going to matter in the field if you're talking about a hunting situation. It might be easier though. However, if you do get a nice jam in there, you're going to have to dig it out with something. You know, I would say if you're hunting with this gun, bring like a little screwdriver or something with you in your jacket or in your pack. But for the most part, when I've fed 3 rounds in here, when I'm shooting it, I haven't had any issues with it jamming. The trigger is very nice. It's probably a good, I would say, 5 to 6 pound trigger, but it's a nice, it's an old Timney. It's a really nice clean break. The action's super smooth. It is a 22-inch barrel. I gauged the front of it with my barrel gauge, and it gauged almost as a new barrel, which isn't surprising. You know, it probably was rarely ever shot. And the gun's really in surprisingly good condition. It's just not one of those guns that you're gonna like, it's not like a fine old Fudd rifle. It's just, there's no checkering on it. I put this tape on there because that was actually really slick. I did this, don't laugh at me, but that's just because it's a blind magazine that literally holds 3 rounds. You know, you're able to just kind of keep one right in there if you want to do a single load or whatever. It's an old Nikon scope, a really old scope. It was actually my first hunting style scope that I ever bought, like something like 15 years ago. So was it worth $200? Yes. Do I think somebody would buy it for $200 if I wanted to sell it? It depends on the person, right? There's a lot of good options out there. Newer guns that are probably going to be a little more accurate out of the box and just be newer, a little bit cooler, have a detachable magazine and that sort of thing. But if you're into kind of something a little more classic, something old, something functional, fun, and pretty cool, I haven't really accuracy tested it yet. I've just shot it with ball ammo, and it was shooting around 2.5 inches. I'm going to buy some hunting ammo for it, and because I'm not going to bother with match, this isn't a match style gun. I just want to see what it will do with maybe like 150 grain load and 180 grain load. And I'll make a little video and report back onto what kind of groups I got. But yeah, this is my old Mauser sporter rifle. Have a great day.